Good morning. Oh, I'm glad you are still with us. Well, thank you. I'm pleased to contribute to the issue of or addressing the issue of synergies. Synergies seem to be like a ghost. We all sense it needs it. We all sense it as a need, but we hardly see it. I personally call synergy human mathematics. In human mathematics, 1 plus 1 never made it 2. It's more than 2, it can be multiple of 2 if people cooperate, and less than 2 if they fail. And the greatest benefit of synergy is born in the diversity of perspectives when we manage to perceive and pursue the convergences and the complementarities. And I believe that this is possible in the context of the Rio Convention. First, because their overall goal is sustainable development. And the action program that has been designed respectively under the Climate Change Convention, Biodiversity Convention, and Desertification Convention has been designed with similar principle. Their formulation has been made under similar principle. We have invoked, when we were designing them, participatory processes, overall coherence, and effectiveness and accountability. Unfortunately, more often, implementation has been, let's say, kept under sectoral approaches, resulting in key decisions narrowed to sector interest. So what we ought to do is to pull down those, let's say, ivory towers built around the implementation processes. I call it, or not I, many people call it actually convention egoism, where we want to do things just under the convention and we fail to really build on the win-win ground that are at hand. So my key messages are the following. Global land improvement is mainly the result of ecosystem services provided by the poor in the drylands. We shall see that. But adaptation to climate change is crucial to preserve their livelihood. Sustainable land and water management is a multi-purpose approach in addressing climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. DLDD stands for desertification, land degradation, and drought, and biodiversity conservation. And we can overcome the hurdles to synergies. And I will share with you briefly one ongoing initiative between the Secretariat of Climate Change and the one of this Convention on Desertification to advance integrated approaches while implementing the National Action Program on that Desertification Convention and the Adaptation Program under Climate Change. So, well, here is now the very old global map for dry lands. I personally believe that this map now is outdated, and we need to work to provide a new land, because it is assumed that the boundaries of the dry lands has moved precisely due to the combined effect of mismanagement and also climate change. So when you look at that map, you can see in yellow, with different tone of yellow, the dry lands of the world. And here is the map provided by the Gnacadja report of global land improvement that has taken place between 1981 and 2006. Within those 25 years, land has been degraded, but land has also been improved. And when you look at this map, you will see where land has been improved. When you put the two maps together, you will see that land has been improved mainly in the dry lands of the world. The 16% of land improvement that has taken place, according to the Gnacadja report, within those 25 years has taken place in the dry lands of the world. This is to be, let's say, noticed, and therefore we must agree that the focus of the global community and the call on parties to do more especially in enhancing livelihood and investing in land cover regeneration in the dry land, has been paying off, and more is needed. Now, here's the point. This has been done mainly by the poor, by themselves, while they are still coping with climate change adaptation. So we must take this into consideration and do whatever we can to invest more through adaptation. Now, here is another map. This has been provided by UNEP, and here we have, because you can see in the map the changes in agricultural productivity by 2080 due to climate change. And whatever is in red is actually showing that agricultural productivity may shrink in those areas by -15 to -50% in 2080. And when you look at where those red areas are, most of them are in the dry lands of the world. This is clearly showing the importance of investing to climate change adaptation if we really want to preserve livelihood in the dry lands. So now let us have a look at how important it is to invest through sustainable land and water management in the dry lands. It is a multi-purpose approach, a win-win context that is mainly not considered while we are designing programs and projects on sustainable land and water management. We must consider all the other co-benefits while we are designing those projects, precisely to show to all those who will be stakeholders of the program or the project how they should therefore calculate, assess the impact of it. I think one of the avenues, of course, is poverty alleviation. Improving livelihood through pro-poor policies on sustainable land and water management. Of course, we know that it is one of the most effective ways to alleviate poverty. We know that the countries of the world that are affected by desertification, those areas actually, if I may say, the population and the areas that are affected by desertification rank at the bottom of the human index, human development index. And the GDP generated in those areas are 50% of the GDP generated in the non-dry land areas. So there's a heavy toll taken on those areas due to the vulnerability. But we also know that when we invest through pro-poor policies in those areas, we have seen some example here yesterday in one of the panel where I was, especially in this area in Brazil, through the PRODAM project. So the second aspect is food security. We know that 50% of the livestock are coming from the dry land, and 44% of the food production system is from the dry land. So land availability and soil fertility improvement are, or should be, at the core of a long-term strategy for food security from the local to the global level. And drought and water stress, we can address it, we can mitigate drought by improving the way, the preparedness of population, and also enhancing safety nets that are made available for them. So another aspect, of course, has been also already addressed. It is climate change adaptation and mitigation. Land is the win-win context for it, but it still to be discussed, especially in the REDD Plus that is under negotiation. Biodiversity conservation, it has been said already, and avoided deforestation. This is a field where I'm quite surprised to see how we can really focus, of course, rightfully focus on the need to conserve the forest. But at the same time, we fail to think out of the box. We fail to really consider the fact that the driving forces for forest degradation and deforestation, many of them are not coming from within the forest, but from outside the forest. And if we don't address those drivers, whatever we have invest or we will invest in conserving the forest are doomed to be failed investment. So it is important that we provide alternative to deforestation. It is important that we ensure that sustainable land management is the first avenue. The second avenue, of course, is reclaiming degraded lands as an alternative to going and deforest. If this is not part of the loop, then our endeavor to preserve the forest, unfortunately, will not produce much result. The seventh avenue is, of course, bioenergy. I believe that bioenergy could be, under a number of precautions, opportunity to invest in and for the people living in the degraded lands, in the dry lands, and provide to them alternative to the use of biomass. Last but not least is avoided environmentally induced migration. We need to reduce the push factor through improving water availability and land productivity. But if you take all those 8 avenues and you take them on a structural way, you will not still make it. I believe that to make it, synergy is important. In fact, it is through synergy that we can really bring those degraded land to become productive land, and people living there to make it even more out of the natural resources they depend on. Now, why should we therefore, let's say, keep on hurdling for synergies? What should we do to remove those hurdles? The first hurdle that we must remove is what I call, or what many call, convention egoism. I know in some countries, people, the same person is the focal point for the 3 Rio Convention. But when you go through the program he is designing and for his country, you will see that he failed to put himself in synergy with himself. Here is the same person, the focal point with for the 3 Rio Convention, and the proposal he is making at the country level to implement those 3 Rio Conventions are not in synergy. And this will not be solved from Bonn or from Montreal. This will not be solved with the Executive Secretary of the Convention. So synergy is and should remain a major agenda at country and local level. For us, at the global level, it's quite easy. We have been doing it. We have the joint liaison group where the Executive Secretariat do meet, colleagues do meet, the executive secretaries do meet to work and advance the synergy agenda, but it will not suffice. We must overcome the convention egoism at all levels, the country level and local level being the most important one. Second thing is that we have the same parties being parties to the 3 conventions. Again, why therefore should synergy be in such a challenge? There is also a point that I want to make is about the lack of driveness for synergies. We have the Rio markers. Obviously, it is not enough. We need incentive for synergies. We need incentive to drive synergies. That's why I'm pleased to acknowledge the policy shifts that we all have observed at the GEF level, whereby under the GEF 5, there are provisions, first to, let's say, encourage country-level programming, where at country level it is, of course, an option for countries to work and on a comprehensive way and assess whatever they intend to submit to the GEF for funding. So this should not be a project approach, but rather a programmatic approach. But as I used to say, this should not be done for the sake of submitting the program to the GEF. This should be done for the sake of country program or regional level development strategies. And going to the GEF will be like, let's say, looking for a partner. This is part of the need for ownership. I also believe that a better monitoring will help to advance synergy. The UNCCD was, till last year, the convention who was lacking a commonly agreed indicators by parties to monitor desertification and non-degradation. This gap has been filled last year, first because parties has made a decision under the 10-year strategy that they have approved in September 2007 for 2008-18. They have made a decision that they need to make the Committee on Science and Technology to become a global authority on scientific and technological knowledge pertaining to desertification, land degradation, and drought mitigation. It means that they sense they need to have a mechanism and or a body advising them on those scientific knowledge and also fostering science and policy dialogue to advance policy making and decision making. It is under that aim, that purpose, that the first UNCCD scientific conference has taken place last year prior to the COP9 in Buenos Aires. And the scientists has advised the parties to adopt 11 indicators. Most of those indicators are common to biodiversity conservation and climate change, are common to biodiversity convention and climate change convention as well. Parties have adopted those 11 indicators, making 2 of them mandatory for reporting, and 9 has been still made optional due to some additional work that are needed, first on methodology, but also on capacity building. The 2 mandatory indicators are first the above poverty line in the affected areas, and the second being land cover status in those countries. The 9 remaining one, you can, if you go to the UNCCD website, you can download the 11 indicators that has been approved. One of them is a change in land use. Another one is level of land degradation, but you also have plant and animal biodiversity. You have aridity index, but you also have carbon stock above and below ground level. Now, let us have a specific look to possibility to advance the implementation of NAP and NAPAs at country level. This is possible. In all the land-based economies, adaptation to climate change do mean a lot in the context of improving the way investments are made in those economies and land is being managed. So there are many provisions in the UNFCCC, UNCCD, and CBD convention regarding advancing synergies. This has been addressed. But in the CCD convention, this is central stage in the 10-year strategy. And what we have discussed with our colleague of the Climate Change Convention is to assist countries' readiness. And I want to highlight and underline country readiness, to assist country readiness to head their development partners for action at local level in the joint implementation of NAPs and NAPAs. Again, NAPs stand for National Action Program under the Ratification Convention, and NAPAs stand for National Adaptation Program, National Action Program for Adaptation under climate change. The second point is to develop cooperative review of NAP and NAPAs to find the common ground. There have been a number of studies regarding NAP and NAPAs in the world, and many of them has came out with conclusion that in the land-based economy, in some of the developing countries, for instance, let's say, you can see that NAP and NAPAs are redundant sometimes by 75%. How can you make the case of investing in NAP and NAPAs with the Ministry of Planning or the Ministry of Finance if at the end of the day he noticed that those programs are redundant? So it is important to go to make a review and find out what are those commonalities and how we could jointly therefore advance them. And then we can assist in assessing the cost benefit of sustainable land management and the cost of inaction in order to foster the mainstreaming of NAP and NAPAs. Yesterday, a journalist asked me a question. He said, what is the cost of desertification worldwide? Well, there's no response yet for that question. We know the average land being degraded every year, but we don't know yet the overall socioeconomic cost of it. Because in some countries, they have assessed it, but from one country to another country, the methodology are not the same, and you can't even compare. And before putting them together and saying, here's the number, globally speaking. That is why the parties to the Convention to Combat Desertification have made another decision that in 2 years' time, in 2012, the UNCCD Second Scientific Conference will be precisely addressing that issue. So we also plan to assist in monitoring the joint implementation of NAP and NAPAs with those countries. So the next step that we are working on now is to identify a kind of pilot phase where there will be pilot countries in every region. In conclusion, let's make synergies work for the poor. Thank you.